All right, so appreciate everybody who tuned in to the Trench Warfare live stream. That was very dope of you guys to come out and celebrate the 50 young youth offensive linemen, also the 50 young youth defensive linemen. And what B-Tuck is doing is for the community, is beyond. Shout out to Gerald McCoy, shout out to Osa, Chauncey Golston, as well as my guy Buddy Johnson for coming out to the event, and many other football players to come show up and show out. And shout out to Talib, who came in for a brief second there. This is what is about unity. But let's talk about the imperfect situations to make perfect, right? The imperfect situation would be when chaos is everywhere. How do you get that back on the float, or how do you get things going back into the right direction? First and foremost, it happens with the state of mind. A lot of times, we will have one direction, but the wind will blow it another way. And now when we start talking about the Cowboys defense, one of the things that we were able to pull out from Osa when he talked to us live was the fact that what Mike Zim is going to bring is structure. Not saying that Dan Quinn didn't have any structure and Mike Zim is light years ahead of Dan Quinn, but what it is that sometimes players need a perfect situation versus an imperfect situation. For example, life will throw you all types of curveballs, but when you hit that curveball, when you absolutely connect on it, it's a home run. It's a flat out home run. So when we start talking about the new philosophy and us shooting through A gaps, it's going to be a perfect storm for us because of the fact that we already lived through the imperfect situations, and now we finna put into a structured situation. We're going to be able to move a whole lot faster on defense. Now, granted, there are things that we still need to evaluate, right? I gave you guys a list of DBs that I would like for the Cowboys to still entertain, and on top of that, let us not forget about the fact that we still need a big boy down the inside. Just because we got a Rodgers kid who's 340 pounds, and just because we got a mindset, Amazi's supposed to be improved his second year, he's still going through shoulder situations, right? So we still got to do the evaluation pieces of it. And we still got to move around in those fashions, ladies and gentlemen. So the business deal of it is still undone. Now, granted, we banged on the table. I talked about Calais Campbell, bringing him in for a cup of coffee. We know that this is a contract year for Osa. So normally players show up and show out on contract years, right? And on top of that, when you look at the scheme in its fullness, you still may want to shake this tree and see what you can get out of a defensive back. Stephon Gilmore, things that people are not talking about. He may return, but he's long in the tooth. And on top of that, let me just say this, ladies and gentlemen. He have off-season shoulder surgery as well. So when you're talking about those things, do you say, okay, yeah, I get it, but let me pick up the phone and call J.C. Jackson. Let me pick up the phone and call, Xavier Howard, right? Let me call some other guys that I know that's not really battling through a recovery and see what they got. But before we do that, before we put the cart in front of the horse, we got to see what we got. We got to see what we got. And that is why Zim is, and that's why I believe ultimately the front office is taking their time as well, because they got to sit back and see what they got. They got to see whether or not Izzy can do something, Nashawn Wright can do something, Eric Scott Jr., if he can do something, and as well as Keelan Carsons, and see whether or not he's going to do something. So I foresee that it's going to be a couple of more weeks or what have you before they pull the trigger on a veteran interior guy or a veteran DB. But at the end of the day, if there's a deal out there that's so sweet that you can't turn around, then that could happen. And that's what, post-June 1, you're going to see a lot of people, you're going to see a lot of teams getting rid of some of their veteran guys and it get right down to the last minutes, right? So that's going to be that second wave of free agencies that we're going to be looking for. And I want to say this too, ladies and gentlemen. Defense is where I'm thinking that the Cowboys need the most help at heading into 2024 season. Defense. I'm going to ask y'all, who are you more comfortable with, defense or offense? Let me know. Because offensively speaking, okay, we solidified the offensive line. Shout out to big Nate Thomas, right? And we do have BB, and then we do have Tyler Guyton. Those three guys. And then on top of that, of course, we can all expect Terrence Steele to be better than what he was last season. And he was coming along in a good way toward the back end of it, right? So we looking at offense. We only have reservations on running game. Slight reservations in wide receiver department. We cool with everything else. We cool with tight end. Don't y'all go out there and do another tight end situation, right? But we cool with tight end, right? And we are cool with our wide receiver one, right? CeeDee Lamb, we cool with him. And the quarterback situation, hey, you know for sure, and I get it, even those who can't stand Dak Prescott, even at minimum, you know for sure that this dude is going to be able to take you to the playoffs, right? So you good with that. And then on top of that, with his stats and accolades and what have you, by far, there's really not a long list of other quarterbacks that's better than him in the NFC. So you know for sure by far in the NFC East you have the best quarterback, and you know for sure that if given a perfect situation as it relates to blocking it up front and getting things out, then he's going to give you all pro numbers. Those are things that's not up for debate. The only players that we lost last year on offense that was very, very much so tangible to a degree will be Tyron Smith and Tony Pollard. So what we're looking for is those guys that's already here to at least replenish what we lost from that. And I'm thinking so that by this running back by committee, we did just that. And then on top of that, Tyler Guyton, I'm not saying that he's a Tyron Smith year one, but that's going to be a situation whereas the Cowboys at least identified that, hey, we need help at tackle. They got Tyler Guyton. They got Austin Richards. You see what I'm saying? And then they got Nate Thomas. They got three guys that can play on that left side. What we can't have is Hall of Famers all on the front five, right? So this should be enough. We just looking at if this team can figure out to do just those small things. Interior defensive tackle, DB. Running back game, and who else can stand tall to be wide receiver 2? That's it. Everything else is set up. Oh, and some people were asking, Law, the Cowboys are doing a rebuild. And some say, hey, the Cowboys are doing a soft rebuild. Let me tell y'all something. You should always be rebuilding. When you go down the streets of those prominent streets in good neighborhoods or in good areas, they always patching up holes and they always doing preventive maintenance, meaning that they don't let those potholes in the street become so massive it looks like the road got acne. It looked like they got doggone earthquake them been through there or some type of meteor shower been there. No. They always improving. And that's what the Cowboys should be doing always. Everybody's job is on the line, right? You don't wait for the doggone bridge to start shaking before you say, hey, let's shut the bridge down and rebuild. No, you always doing preventive maintenance, and that's what the Cowboys are doing. So, yeah, do that. Make sure that you got everything in line so that you don't have to do a complete build. It's okay to rebuild. It's okay to do a soft rebuild. But as long as it's not a shut down everything and do a complete overhaul build, you okay, Cowboy Nation. And everyone that's listening, this is Cowboy Law. That's my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Go Cowboys.